Good. Well, in that case, let's dive into the questions. And the first one relates to something I saw going around on the list server or whatever it is, the email chain that I still get notifications on now and then. But this year having so much snow, is it possible to carry a bottle with a filter to save weight and dip and drink as you go? Are there long stretches with little access to water? Well, you carry whatever the heck you want. So if you want to carry those things, you can. Blake is a longtime hard rocker. What's your recommendation on using the filter, carrying bottles, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's plenty of water on the course that you can drink. So, you definitely probably do not want to try and carry as much water as you're going to need out of an aid station, all the way to the next aid station. You're going to want some way of treating water because you'll have lots of opportunities to do that. And that'll allow you to travel a little lighter. And over the years, I've used iodine. Then I was using a SteriPen for a while, and now I just have a filter bottle, which is just very easy to work with. And that's what I'm going to take is just a couple 500 milliliter bottles and have one of them have the filter head on it. So I can just dip out and, if I'm all the way dry, squeeze the bottle into one of my other bottles and then refill it. And, it doesn't get a whole lot easier than that.
No, you're absolutely right. And of course, there'll be plenty of snow out there. You can always pack one of those bottles with snow as well. I think that's probably the best advice. I know there are some people that drink directly from the streams that are out there. And if they've gotten sick, it's happened after the race. And so they haven't told us about it. But I've never had a drink directly from any of those streams. I don't think it's worth the risk. And those filters are so light. Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I've done that before. I ordinarily treat it all. There are a couple places on the course where you're very high in a basin and the water is basically coming right off of a snowbank. And in a situation like that, I would personally feel comfortable just drinking out of there. But like you said, it's so easy to filter it. There's kind of no reason not to.
I think so.
And then the second part of that, Chris, is are there any long stretches? I don't know if Brett or Blake or you want to talk a little bit about any of the stretches. I guess long is a relative term.
Long is a relative term. Brett, what's your thought on the longest places where there are long stretches between water sources?
This year, not many. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of creeks running, or streams, tributaries running this year that may not traditionally be running this late into the summer. So I honestly can't think of any long stretches where there's not at least going to be some small tributaries running across the course.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. And those places where you may not be able to get to running water, there's still going to be a lot of snow when you're up high. So
my guess is probably the longest stretch would be going up Camp Bird Road out of Uray. And there's the drinking cups water spout that's probably going to be maybe 4 miles up that you can drink from without any issues. But I would concur with Brett, like 4 miles maybe would be the longest that you're gonna have to go without water going across the trail.
The drinking,
yeah, and going up Camp Bird, you cross. There's that bridge that goes across the river. Maybe 3 miles out of Uray, something like that. And you can climb down, off the embankment and fill up there. I've done that before. Yeah,
I tend to be always skeptical of the mine runoff there, so try to avoid it when I can.
The drinking cup is a spot where there's kind of a rock overhang and there's a trickle of water that comes down there. And I think there used to be a tin cup affixed to a rope there. I don't think there still is, but But that's a spot where people will see water coming down. But yeah, good point. That's not an area that I typically think of being, I guess I don't think about that time. I try to block that out when I'm climbing that road. You're right. That can be a long stretch because you guys are going uphill this year. So it's going to take a while to get up that.
And I
Even
think
with filtration?
and if it's hot, oh, I'm sorry, Brad, go ahead.
I was going to say, even with filtration, would you drink the water in Pole Creek, knowing that there's so much livestock activity up there?
I would with filtration. I mean, not so long ago, that was, and maybe still, that was how the aid station got their water, was pulling it out of there and treating it.
Yeah, I've treated the water in Pole Creek many times and have never gotten sick.
I will say it was the Pole Creek. Let me preface this. Aid station volunteers are angels and amazing, and I love them. But it's because of Pole Creek that I do carry a filter, because I got to that aid station one time and I was told that they had just drawn water and were treating it and it wasn't ready to be given out yet. And I was moving as fast as I could at that point and I didn't want to wait. And so I moved on without refilling my bottle, and I did not have a filter at that point. And I just decided from now on, I'm going to carry my own filter so that I don't have to worry about whether the aid station's got water for me or not. And yeah, I've also pulled water out of Pole Creek and am here to tell the tale, but always with a filter. Okay, next question. Which areas of the run will we encounter mosquitoes? Who wants to take that?
I'll say the 2 aid stations that request the most bug spray are Pole Creek and Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman for sure. That's the place where coming out of Chapman, that climb out of Chapman, no matter which direction it's going, there are always bugs there. That's the one spot I can think of.
Yeah,
Blake,
that's the main spot I think of is Chapman for the mosquitoes. There's the black flies around Telluride that are obnoxious. Maybe not so much in this direction. I usually think of that as being, on the section between Telluride and Virginius, which we're going down this year. So that'll be, easier to avoid the flies going down than when you're going up in the middle of the day.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. So in this direction, it's probably around Chapman is the spot. Says, I remember you saying you have your crew, have your advice. We advised on one of these that maybe don't ask your crew to go out to Sherman. That was only advice for people who like your crew, was to skip Sherman. If you don't think, if you don't care about your crew, or you're not going to mind that they may not talk to you afterwards, by all means, send them out to Sherman. But can you clarify the drive time to Animas Forks if you want to pick up a pacer there? So drive time to Animas Forks, that's different from Sherman. The drive time, Brad, what are you counting on as the drive time from Silverton out to Animas?
To go straight there would be roughly 45 to 50 minutes. Do keep in mind that we have the Eureka staging area this year. So unless your runner is arriving at Animas after 8 p.m., we will hold you at Eureka about 20 minutes shy of Animas until they clear Handy's Peak.
Yeah, this might be a good time to emphasize that we've got 2 different aid stations that we've got some changes. Animas, as you just mentioned, we're going to hold people up to a point before they can head out there, but then we'll let folks go. And then we've also got a change from what was previously published about what we're doing at Cunningham.
Sorry, I got distracted. Say that one more time. The last part.
Cunningham, tell us what is different about Cunningham this year.
Okay, sorry. So traditionally we have had shuttles. We've had crews park about 4 miles shy of Cunningham and shuttle them in to decrease congestion. And believe it or not, it's just difficult to get vehicles that can hold a decent number of people in Silverton. So we figured, okay, well, we can't get many vehicles, but we do have plenty of volunteers. It's going to be a lot easier to get a crack parking team out there and just allow crews to drive to the aid station and keep them organized. So that is the plan. This year, crews can drive directly to Cunningham. We expect the line of cars to back up that it could be as much as a mile walk from where you end up parking to the aid station. But honestly, it should be more reliable than the shuttles we've tried in the past. Apologies for anyone who's had that experience.
There you go.
And
And then you want to, and preferential parking treatment will be given to those who carpool.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Still no,
Crews who carpool. Yeah.
yes. And it's not just having more than one person in your car, it's having more than one crew in your car. So to qualify for the carpool parking, you need to have more than one crew tag. Otherwise, we're afraid that we're just encouraging, you know, maybe someone was just going to have 2 people from their crew meet them, and they're like, oh no, we want to qualify for carpool, we're going to bring all 4 of them out there. And then we end up with a bigger mess than we would have had. So to qualify for the carpool parking, which will be a special section closer into the aid station, you need to make friends with another crew and have both crews with both tags together in the same vehicle.
and the runners are going to be close together this year
Yes.
at Cunningham. So it's fine to carpool. You don't need to make sure that the crew you are carpooling with has a runner who's expected to come in within 10 seconds of your own runner. Everybody's going to be coming through relatively close together at that point. So still no need to drag race out to Cunningham as soon as the runners
No.
ready, set, go. How long is it going to take before the leaders get to Cunningham? I'm never there to see them, so I don't know.
Generally, everyone is there in a 3-hour span or less.
Okay, so you've still got time to get that second cup of coffee before you head out from Silverton.
Yep.
What historical counterclockwise years will most likely resemble anticipated course conditions this year on race day? Dale, you've been around for all these things. Which years do you think this looks most like?
And I might defer a little bit to Blake too, because he's experienced more times on the course than I, but we, in going through this, I think we came up with 2005 as the year that's closest in terms of snow melt and things like that.
Do you agree, Blake? Blake, you're muted.
There we go. I don't remember the specific year numerically, but there have been a number of, in a snowy year, typically American Basin's completely full of snow. The upper part of Bear Creek, as you've climbed out of Telluride and are getting up to toward Oscars Pass, that upper basin, there's been a few years where that was completely full of snow, for a couple miles below Oscars Pass. Those are and then of course going up Virginius out of Uray, it's actually, I think, easier to climb in a snowy year than it is in a dry year, because the snow is easier to go up than the scree. But we've had snow on all 3 of those pitches climbing up. The only qualifier there is, of course, it depends, what time of day you get to it there. But that one in particular, if you're getting there in the middle of the night or in the early morning, you're probably going to want some kind of traction device, crampons or something, because there's some pretty steep sections and that snow can be pretty hard, and it's a long slide. Also going up Grant Swamp, there's been a few years where we're climbing that on snow. And again, I think it's easier on snow climbing up than it is climbing up the scree. So I don't think having a lot of snow on the course is necessarily a bad thing. It might, it'll make some portions of it easier to get over.
Yep. 2005 was my first Hardrock. There was a bunch of snow going up to the top of handies. And I did, one of the questions that somebody else has asked is about carrying spikes or anything like that, yak tracks, stuff like that. I did have a couple of tent stakes that I carried, and I used those to help claw my way up to the top of handies through the snow there. I remember going up Grant Swamp Pass was actually really easy relative to dry years because there were just snow steps kicked in all the way up. And so I just followed the snow steps going up. Apologies to anybody who's going to go up first, but I had nice steps that I was able to go up. In other years when I didn't use poles that year, and so that's why I had those spikes. In other years that or those stakes. In other years when I've used poles, those have been plenty. I don't bother putting on yak tracks or micro spikes or anything. Blake, do you do that?
It depends what time of day I'm planning on getting there. You know, this year I'm planning on running slower than I have in previous years. So I'm expecting it'll be in the middle of the day, for instance, when I'm going up Virginius. So, you know, I don't expect I'm going to need them in the middle of the day. When I've gotten to Virginius right at dawn, there was at least one year where I didn't have any traction device and really wish that I had, because it was pretty sketchy. You know, I was, you know, kicking a step as best as I could, you know, and just barely clinging on. I think in the direction, the schedule I'm sort of looking at running this year, which is kind of like 45 hours or so. I think I will bring my running crampons with me, but I don't actually anticipate I'll probably use them. I just don't think I'll be anywhere in the middle of the night where that's an issue. With one exception, maybe Grant Swamp. I'll you know, assess. I'm thinking I'm going to get out of Chapman at sunset, and if I do that, I may or may not bother to take them because it won't freeze up in the 2 or 3 hours it'll take me to get up there. But if I'm much later than that, I probably will.
Yeah, and then the section after Grant Swamp, there's probably not going to be a lot of snow up there. I mean, there'll be snow, but it's not going to be as
yeah. It's not going to be steep snow.
No. Great. Let's see. This goes back to our question regarding the course. Someone downloaded the 2023 GPX, didn't see several of the aid stations, didn't see Pole Creek, Putnam Basin, doesn't see Governor's, Kroger's. Do you have the coordinates for the missing aid stations, or is there the wrong GPX file? We have the link to the proper GPX file. Maybe Dale or Brad, if one of you can drop it in the chat.
Right, Brad. Let Brad do that because he's got them all as aid station director.
Yeah.
So the link that's on the website that they referenced is the most current link I have. I don't know its origin. I just posted it. It does need updating in all the ways that person mentioned. Now, the coordinates of the aid stations are listed on the aid station table on the website and both the runners and volunteer manuals. But as far as a fully updated standalone GPX file, no, we don't have that currently. Hopefully we'll get it done, but to be honest, it's a bit lower on the priority list because those resources are out, just not gathered together in that one place. So apologies that we did not get that done before now.
There you go. There will be well marked. You will
Yes.
know that that's an aid station when you get to it.
Yeah, and this is Brad. I'll take the GPX file I had was, you know, is more of a navigational tool, and I apologize, we didn't get all the aid stations plugged in there, but with under the course information tab on the website, with that aid station table with all the locations as well as the narrative course description, If you're following the GPX, and that's going to keep you on the course, you are going to encounter those aid stations.
Yep.
But I can get those coordinates, I can get those loaded onto the GPX. My fault on that one.
No worries. The person says also Grouse Gulch is called Grouse Gulch, not Animas Forks. Well, you'll go through Grouse Gulch on your way to Animas Forks. So Grouse Gulch is still there. You just won't stop when you get there. Drop bags.
Hey, Chris, can
Yeah.
I mention something about that? Because especially to somebody new, they're first going to encounter runners at Grouse Gulch, but that's not where the crewing should happen. It should happen at Animas Forks up the road from Grouse Gulch. So please, everybody, don't stop at Grouse Gulch, even though that's where the runners are going to intersect coming down from Handy's. But the actual crew and aid station is at Animas Forks and not at Grouse Gulch.
It's important that everybody recognize that crewing is only allowed at the aid stations that are specifically crew aid stations, and that we have had at least one runner who was disqualified for receiving aid outside of the allowed areas. So please don't become the next person to fall to that rule.
All right. And that, just to clarify, that's 400 feet from the aid station is the crew.
Let's see. All right. Drop bags coming from Europe. Race scene drop bags are normally provided by the organization. For Hardrock 100, is that the case? Nope. Bring your own bags or buy them around in Colorado. Markings, understand that some cross. So that's it. You are responsible for your own drop bags. They can be whatever you want, but if they're not waterproof, then they may get wet. It can rain in the San Juans in July. So probably a good idea to put your stuff. I always put my stuff in a garbage bag, and then the garbage bag goes inside a bag that is easily recognizable by my crew, is how I do that. And then the next part from that same person, markings. I understand there's some cross-country running as well. How close to the released GPX file do you expect the markings to be? Or if in doubt, do you always follow the GPX and try to track back to the last seen markings? Brett, you want to talk about how the course is going to be marked?
Sure. Yeah, I would, and this year it's going to be, that's a very relevant question, because the GPX, given the snow on the course, the GPX may be off a little bit from where we have to actually mark the course, just for safety and navigation reasons. I know one situation in particular, like coming off of Buffalo Boy Ridge, there's a descent off of there, depending upon if there's a cornice there or what the snowpack is like. We may descend off of Buffalo Boy Ridge a little bit lower than we have in previous years. So I would say, when in doubt, I would follow the course markings. We will have below tree line, and we can talk about this in Silverton, at the orientation. Below tree line, we'll have orange ribbons with reflectors on them. Above tree line, we have aluminum stakes about 2 feet tall that we'll put in the ground, also with reflectors. And then this year, since we do expect prolonged sections of snow, we are going to use some spray chalk on the snow, some orange spray chalk. But also keep in mind, once a few runners go through the snow, especially during the day when it's soft and warm-ish, there will be kind of a trench. It'll be easy to follow footprints through the snow. So but there will be slight variations, just given the amount of snow on the course this year between the GPX and where we mark the course.
And Dale, from an official standpoint, the course to follow is the course as marked, not the GPX, correct?
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
If you can see a marker, but your GPX is saying go somewhere else, follow the marker. There's probably a very good reason why it was marked that way.
Right.
That's the official course.
Yes.
Good. Let's see. What is your preferred weather? Oh, I don't have any idea. What is your preferred weather app or website for weather forecasts in the mountains, high elevation on the Hardrock course? I always just ask David Koblenz what's going to happen. He's not here. What's
I use my radar.
yeah, that's the app.
Yeah, the app, my radar. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think it's kind of personal preference, but
So Brad just dropped a link in the chat, and then there's a meteorologist out of Durango who will forecast. So you can kind of look for his blog, and that's, I think, what a lot of the local people check for about a week in advance.
Blake, do you ever make any accommodation for the forecast when you are putting the stuff in your pack or your drop bags, or are you just always ready for whatever?
Always be ready for whatever.
That's what I do as well. There was a year where it started snowing on us within the first few hours. There was a massive hailstorm that we had to endure. I don't remember if it was the same year or a different year. There's going to be lightning at some point on the course. Just be ready to be as cold as you've ever been in your life. Be ready to be boiling hot at some points. Be ready to be wet.
Yeah, and you know, it can be very localized, because I can think of at least actually 2 years going in the direction we're going this year, where we had a lot of rain, and I just got lucky, and you know, people an hour ahead of me and people an hour behind me were getting absolutely hammered by the weather, and I hardly got any rain at all. I was kind of like just doing the whole course in this window between storms. And you know, so it is very localized, and somebody who's, you know, a couple miles ahead of you may have a very different experience than you do.
Yeah. So so there are those apps that you can use, but please take everything with you that you're going to need, or at least have things in your packs, in your drop bags, that you can pick up for different sections. Another piece of advice along those lines, I recommend you always start with a flashlight or a headlamp in your pocket. They're nice and lightweight these days. You can have your really nice one waiting for you at Animas or at Sherman or wherever you think you're going to need it, but have something with you just in case, because it could get dark out there at just about any time of day too. If you switch a pacer at KT, is it okay for a non-crew vehicle to drop the pacer at Mineral Creek Campground, pacer to hike in alone? Driver would come in, drop the pacer, and leave. So for the pacer, if you do switch out pacers, it's required that the pacer hike up to KT aid station. The whole crew can't go up there, just the pacer, and the pacer can't be dropped off up the road. It's got to be at campground. Brad, are they going to be checking to make sure it's the vehicle dropping the pacer off at South Mineral has a crew tag?
Plead the fifth.
Okay. So in other words, yeah.
I was going to say exactly what that person described in their question is exactly what we want to happen. A crew member drives the pacer to South Mineral Trailhead or Ice Lakes Trailhead. The pacer hikes into the aid station, assuming that the other pacer is coming out, which they have to do. Then the crew member waits at the Ice Lakes Trailhead for that other pacer and then drives out with them. That is exactly what should happen, and it's the only way it should happen.
I will also say it's really important that your crew member who is waiting on the pacer who is finishing at KT, make sure your crew and that pacer know each other and recognize each other so that they can get out properly. I had a pacer once get a phone call from Dale Garland in the middle of I had not yet finished Hardrock, and my pacer got a phone call from Dale because nobody knew where he was when he got dropped. You remember that, Dale?
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because the pacer that got dropped off at KT walked down, and my crew had never met that pacer before and didn't realize that pacer had another ride out of KT. So that would have been avoided had had there just been one crew vehicle there to drop off and pick up the pacer exchange. Yeah, what I learned from that is you never want anybody in your circle of friends to have Dale Garland show up on the caller ID when Hardrock is still going on.
Fine after, that's fine too, right?
Yeah, afterwards is fine.
Yeah.
Afterwards is fine.
Yeah.
Afterwards it's a congratulations or something, but not,
Right.
yeah, Matt was very, very surprised to get that call and very concerned to see it was coming from you. This just says casual warning about sheepdogs. Brett, what's the casual warning about sheepdogs? Or I don't know who put that on there actually.
I think he might have had to go. He may have to. He owns a running shoe store or running store, so he may be doing
Maybe
work.
making money.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, let's see.
You
Brian?
and Blake, I think what it is, casual. Remember, there will be sheep there, and with that comes sheepdogs. And remember, sheepdogs are very protective of their flocks.
Yeah, Blake and I have certainly experienced those. The first year I saw them was when I was pacing in 2004. I think that was the first year that the Green Mountain section was used, and at night in that section, that's really concerning. This year, of course, going the direction you guys are going, the only place as far as I know, the only place you're likely to see those is in the Green Mountain area. That's going to be early. And so there'll be lots of folks going through there. So probably not going to be as big of an issue in this direction. Blake,
Please give them a wide berth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just, the dogs are there, they aren't somebody's pet, they're working dogs. And so, don't give the dogs any reason to think you're a threat to the sheep.
Absolutely.
And Chris, this kind of brings up another point, and I think there's a couple of things for everybody to remember, that Hardrock is being held in a very popular area, the San Juans, and therefore there are multiple other user groups. They're using the same facilities. So whether they be the sheep permits or whether they be the four-wheel drive group or whatever, not everybody in the San Juans on Hardrock weekend is there to experience Hardrock. And so it's incumbent on us to be great ambassadors, work together, be kind, if somebody wants to know, be accommodating, answer their questions, but also remember that this isn't just our personal playground, that we need to share the resource and be accommodating to other user groups throughout the time we're in the San Juans.
Yeah. We definitely do not want people going to BLM or anybody else talking about the rude and awful Hardrockers that were bullying their way through these trails.
Right.
And make sure
And
your
at aid
crew
stations.
is aware of that also,
Yes.
because some of the unfortunate interactions we've had at various times involve crews that for some reason got crosswise with some other four-wheel drive people that were up on the roads there. So make sure your crew knows the same rules. Be polite, be accommodating, and realize that not everybody up there has any idea what's going on with Hardrock.
Where do you think people are? Where do you think these? Is it mostly around the cities? Is it mostly around Ouray Telluride? Maybe between Sherman and Burroughs? Are those the areas where you're most likely to come across folks, or where else can you think?
Well, I think the crews are likely to have the most interaction, coming into or out of aid stations. And, a couple of those, Grouse Gulch, that area, Animas Forks, that's always a tricky one, because that's one of the most popular four-wheel drive routes. And, and it's a narrow road and it's a rocky road, and sometimes you get people who think they own the road, and you just got to be accommodating there. Another place is Chapman. I think I'll let somebody else talk about what the rules are for crew going through Chapman, but if somebody's going over Ophir Pass, that's another place where you're almost certainly going to be interacting with a lot of other people up there just for a 4-wheel drive weekend. And you want to make sure your crews, kind of know what they're doing and understand the rules of the road. And, all the 4-wheel drivers up there are all very nice people. And if you are accommodating to them, they'll be accommodating to you.
Yeah, indeed. Brad, do you want to talk about what the crew rules are for Chapman?
Okay. So for folks who take the 4-wheel drive route between either Silverton or Ouray and Chapman, you're going to be going over Ophir Pass. To get to the Chapman aid station, you're actually going to drive past the aid station about 2 miles to get to the parking area inside the town of Ophir, and hike back to the aid station. This is a very important point from our permit administrators, is that it looks so tempting, but you can't even stop and pull over on that narrow road to let someone out. No stopping on Ophir Pass Road until you get to the parking area. For folks who are crewing first at Telluride and then coming over to Chapman, no worries, that temptation's removed because you'll get to the parking area before you go to the aid station.
There you go. Absolutely. And by all means, don't decide to take that shortcut over Ophir unless you know what you're doing driving a 4-wheel drive up those Jeep roads. Yeah. Don't be in a hurry. Please don't be in a hurry, whether you're going to Ophir or you're going up to Animas Forks, or if you are going to Sherman and you're going to go up over the pass to get there. Crew, please don't be in a hurry to get any of those places, because if you meet a vehicle coming head on, then somebody's going to have to back down for a while, and it can take a while to get around other vehicles. So take your time. Don't be in a hurry, or really bad things can happen. Can a runner over 60 years old have a pacer from Cunningham Gulch or Sherman, or only from the start, if not from Animas? That's a really good question. I know runners over 60 can have a pacer from the start. Anybody can have a pacer starting at Ouray this direction. No, at Animas. At Animas this direction. But would a 60-year-old or older be able to trade out at one of those other crew access spots?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you're 60 or over and you want to give somebody a chance to pace you just that first section up and over Little Giant, then that's fine. Or if you think you're going to have a pacer the whole way and they get into Cunningham and they say, forget it, I'm not doing this, then you can trade out somebody there.
We will be checking your AARP cards though, so make sure you bring those.
What are the essentials for drop bag that runners and pacers should be thinking about, particularly for Sherman and Chapman Gulch, where crew will not be allowed? So I mentioned having a light from the beginning, but what are some things that would go in a drop bag that you think would be essential to have early on, either Cunningham or Sherman? Blake, that's a great question for you.
I think let me rephrase that question a little bit, because the question is, I mean, there are certainly essential things, but that's going to be dependent on what you want. For me, socks, maybe a dry shirt, something like that. But I think the more important issue is that you need to, when you pack your drop bag, think of what happens if you're running a few hours early or a few hours late into that aid station. Don't think you're going to get into Grouse Gulch or into Animas Forks, right at sunset, and so you don't need a flashlight until then. You might get in several hours after sunset very easily, and then if you don't have a flashlight by then, you're kind of screwed. So think about that. When you pack your drop bag, think not only what am I going to need, for when I think I'm going to get there, but what happens if I'm running a few hours late? Or what happens if I'm running even, this has happened to me, running a few hours ahead of time. I got tripped up one year when I got into Sherman, like 3 hours early from what I thought. And this was, I had expected to get there at dawn and didn't think I was going to need another flashlight. And I ended up getting there at like 3 a.m. and still had 3 hours of dark and didn't have, extra batteries for my flashlight. And that was a problem. So, think that out very carefully.
I think it was 2005, a runner expected to get into Grouse before sunset and ended up being stuck on Handies with no light and spent the night up there, if I remember correctly.
I had one year where I was planning on, I expected I was going to finish long before dark. And so I didn't have, I was wearing my dark glasses during the day and figured that I would, that I didn't put my normal non-dark glasses in. And then I, was running several hours late. And so I had to run several hours in the dark, like 4 or 5 hours in the dark in my sunglasses, because they're prescription, I needed them to see. And that was a little difficult running at night in sunglasses on a trail.
Yeah, I had the opposite last year. I got into Animas earlier than my family was used to me being there. And so it was still middle of the night. And so I left that aid station with no sunglasses and no hat. Normally I would have picked those up there because it would be close to sunrise. And of course, the next time I could see my family was Cunningham. So I had to go a lot of the course from Animas to Cunningham with no sunglasses. And fortunately I had an umbrella hat in my pack, which I started carrying because of the hailstorm a previous year. And so I used a shoelace to tie the umbrella hat on so that it wouldn't blow away in the heavy wind that we had, but I still had no sunglasses until we got to Cunningham. And by the time we got to Cunningham, wasn't even sure I'd need them anymore.
One other thing about what to put in your drop bag, though, that I think is a real important thing is put a checklist in your drop bag. Because you'll get a little fuzzy in the head at some point, and or you're just going to be in a hurry to get in and out. And so you need to have, in your drop bag, wherever you end up putting your drop bag, have a checklist that says, do this, take this, things like leave your garbage, check to make sure you have toilet paper, all these things that you might not think of in the moment. And if you have a checklist that you go through, you'll remember them. And that'll save you a world of hurt, because I can almost guarantee without a checklist, you will forget something that you had intended to do in the aid station.
Very, very, very good point. You'll leave Chapman without your bug spray or sunscreen or those sorts of things. Good point. Very good point. What is the most technical?
Hey, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to put Brad on the spot a little bit and brag on him at the same time. Our aid stations are oases in the mountains. And I just, without having to go through every little thing, Brad, can you talk just a little bit about what is going to be at the aid station so they don't need to be worried about carrying that in the pack?
Well, some items that every aid station will have that you do not have to worry about packing: bug spray, sunscreen, lube, gel packets, gel chews, pretty much something from any category of food you can name. Every aid station is going to have moleskin and a complete first aid kit with bandages and a blister kit. What else? That's
Tums.
Say again. Tums, yeah, ginger chews. Yep. So any of that good standard personal care stuff, every aid station is going to have some.
Good deal.
But again, even though they, it's great that they have it, but again, if you don't have a checklist in your pack, in your drop bag that says, remember to re-lube,
yes,
it's not going to do you any good.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's you're exactly right. You're not necessarily thinking you're clearest when you're out there, especially late at night or the second day. Question, somebody wants to know, what is the most technical part of the course? I'm not sure how to define technical. There's no place that you're going to need a rope except maybe going up Virginius, and we'll provide the rope there for you. So everything else is doable. But where would you say, again, Blake, you're the expert here, where would you say would you define any part of the course as technical?
Not really, but I mean, certainly the scramble up Virginius and the scramble up Grant Swamp are probably the two that are going to be, the toughest on you. Both, they're just difficult on a good day. And particularly in this direction, they're going to be late in the course. So you're going to be tired, and you might be cold and it might be dark. And, those are going to be taxing.
Yeah. If there's snow in those places, though, it's far less technical if you're just walking up ice steps. Downhills, you think of coming down into Chapman. You've got all the rocks on the trail up there. Likewise, you've got something similar coming down the other side of Grant Swamp, where there's plenty of you need happy feet coming down those areas.
Plenty of opportunities to slip and slide and take off a lot of skin.
Yeah. Even Bear Creek, Silverton coming down, especially if you're going to be coming down there in the dark. There are a lot of rocks there that can grab your ankles. Really consider how aggressive you need to be or want to be coming down from the Putnam Aid Station to South Mineral. Are there good places to get up to 12 to 13,000 feet relatively easy to spend time at elevation? I guess this is people talking about pre-race. You'll be up there plenty during Hardrock. But for people that want to get up, I don't know if this is a question regarding camping or just trying to get up there. Dale?
Well, when I saw that, the first place that jumped to my mind was Molos Lake Campground.
There you go. I know a lot of people like to camp up there. And I don't know, what is that up above 12,000?
I'm looking on their website. Mola, I'll put it in the chat if you want to look. I'm not sure the actual elevation, but it's about probably, if you're just driving.
It's going to be about 11,000 feet.
Yeah. Is that what it is, Brett?
Yes.
Okay.
One other thing to think about is quality of sleep. For some folks coming to altitude, the quality of sleep decreases significantly the higher you go. And so you're going to want to feel it out. Altitude acclimation at the expense of quality rest is not a trade-off that you often want to make.
I always stay down in Uray, which is 7,800, but I do sleep on the second floor of the house. So I get a little bit extra.
If people are referring to just getting up high during the day and just exploring, keep in mind, like Cinnamon Pass is plowed, Ophir Pass is plowed. So if they want to just go out for a jog and get a hike or something and get up high, you can stay on those roads which have been plowed.
Good point. Good point. Can we drive through Black Bear Summit Road to Telluride? Not in my Jeep, you can't.
Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I don't know if that's open.
It is not.
It's not. And it'll be one of the last ones to open.
Yeah, and I'm not, I take my Jeep everywhere else, but I will not even attempt that.
It's been in really bad shape the past few years. So unless you have a very well built up Jeep, not a good idea.
Yeah. So thank you, Trevor. Yeah. So not a great idea. And then last thing that I see on the list, I know that there may be other questions that people have, but the last thing I see on the list, and Dale, you can talk about this, is the award ceremony is outside this year. So what should people plan on bringing to the award ceremony?
Be ready for either sunlight or rain. So umbrella, chairs, that kind of thing. It's a celebration. We want everybody to be there, but we want people to be comfortable. So make sure that as you're doing your packing list to pack an umbrella, pack camp chairs, or we'll have them for sale. We'll have other things for sale, but but we'll in sunscreen, because it may be bright.
We'll have food there, but if you're bringing,
We'll have food. We will have food. We will
And-
have food.
and that
Yeah.
not selling, that's for
No,
everybody. But
that's part of the
but
the
if you're
deal.
if you're bringing your entire family and your brother Daryl and your other brother Daryl, maybe bring a few bucks to put in.
There you go. Throw it into the kitty. Yeah.
the
yeah.
kitty.
Yeah. But yeah, but it is a little bit different. And that is really kind of because of, if you followed it or if you were around last year, the super spreader name that we the label that happened. So we are moving it outside in Memorial Park. And I've been assured by Nathan Baxter that the sprinklers will not come on anytime during that weekend.
I, for one, am really looking forward to it being outside. It was that way a few years ago, and I thought it was fantastic. It's definitely a different feel than all being crammed into the gym. But I like the idea that, I don't have to try to wrestle somebody out of the way to get a seat for my mother when it's outside like that. So, were there any other questions that came in while we were doing this that we need to be sure that we address?
Just a couple of thanks, everybody, for your questions and things like that. We hope that it was something that that tonight was something that was meaningful and helpful. Just a couple of things I wrote down as we kind of went through that. Again, the showers, that was early on in the discussion. We will have showers available throughout the week. If it's during Camp Hardrock, they'll be available from 5 until 7 in the school gym. And then, as Brad put in the chat, once the finish line is activated at the beginning of the run, then the showers in the gym will be available. You do need to bring everything of your own. I mean, it's not you need to bring your own towel, your own soap, that kind of thing. It's a school locker room. So Brad, do we want to talk? You and I, we talked a little bit about rule number 2. I'll defer to you on the executive rules summary because we did have a little bit of a discussion about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that one?
Simply that in the official rules of Hardrock, we used to state that if you leave an aid station and then later return, you're assumed to have quit and are withdrawn from the run. And whatever reason there was for that originally, no one can recall. And it seems quite certain that at some point someone will leave an aid station, get a quarter mile away and realize, oh my goodness, I left my poles. And yeah, you're welcome to go back and get them. So rule number 2 is simply now that you have to leave the aid station by the posted cutoff. If you leave and come back and leave and come back and leave and come back, as long as that final leaving is still before the cutoff, you're fine.
But if you leave, you must leave the aid station by the posted cutoff time.
Right. Yeah. If you come back and don't make it back out and the cutoff passes before you make it back out, then you are cut off.
There you go. Anything you want to mention about the webcast that's going to be happening?
I think everybody should have seen that. We're excited. We're teaming with Air Vipa Run Steep Get High to live stream this year's Hardrock, and we will be sending out those links and all that information shortly. There's going to be a multiple ways of having people who are not in Silverton or in the San Juans track you, whether that's through open split time, which they'll be able to see your in times and out times of all your aid stations, your map progress, which you'll each be getting a satellite tracker at runner check-in. So they'll be able to log on. Map Progress has been very good in building a platform for us for that. The live stream, I Run Far does a Twitter feed. So there's lots of ways of staying up to date for those of you who have friends and family who won't be with you in the San Juans.
There we go. All right. And what's our next activity? When next are we gathering people?
Well, I think we all need to check in either Wednesday or Thursday of Hard Rock Week. I think that's the next time we'll all get together.
July 4th, Dale.
July 4th. Oh yeah. Do you want to talk about July 4th, Brad? Sorry.
Well, July 4th in Silverton's kind of a big deal. Free 5K, 10K in the morning. Then there's a huge parade, and the Hard Rock Precision Drill team will, of course, take part as usual, by which we mean we're going to straggle through the streets and hand out candy.
Yes.
Typically, the little old ladies from the Library Association are selling rhubarb pies, and that is something you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
All kinds of street vendors.
There's the
and business-
firefighters water fight. That's worth
Yes.
seeing.
Yes.
All the shops are open with all their bells on, street vendors around. Silverton's just a place to be during the day on the 4th. And then the fireworks in the evening, like you've seen fireworks, but you haven't seen fireworks at 9,000 feet in a mountain valley that echoes every blast back on you 4 different times. It is truly breathtaking.
It'll make you wonder why there are any windows left intact in the entire town.
Good.
But wait,
good.
there's more because also, and Trevor and Chris, because you're kind of our Uray residents, there's also things going on in Uray on 4th of July.
Uray on 4th of July is absolutely amazing. There are also water fights over there. There's also the parade. Trevor, what do you most look forward to on 4th of July in Uray?
Oh, I hide from all the people who come into town, so I'm not the best person to ask. However, there's a 10K that benefits the local house trust, home trust, that is, I think it's $20 if you walk up, $15 if you sign up in advance. There's the parade at like 10 o'clock. Followed after that, there's a bunch of events for kids at the park, bunch of races. If you've got little nippers who are highly competitive, send them down for that. We have not just the firefighters have water fights, but locals get all kitted up and compete with each other. So you can come watch that whole spectacle. I think the Uray County Museum typically is free on 4th of July, so you can go check that out. That's pretty cool. That's what I know right now.
The museum is free that day, and the women's club sells brownies and lemonade out in front. So that's always where I head as soon as the parade is over. I head up there to the museum to get brownie and lemonade and visit with folks. So yeah, lots of fantastic stuff happening. Small town Colorado for 4th of July is just the best 4th of July there is. So whether you're on the Silverton side of Red Mountain Pass or you come over to Uray, we hope that you enjoy it. If you're there,
and Telluride and Lake City both have, and there's links on the Camp Hard Rock schedule.
I think they're races.
What's going on in Telluride and Lake City.
I think there are foot races in all of those cities, I think, on 4th of July.
Telluride has the Rundola. So if you're worried about burning out your quads going downhill before Hard Rock, you could just do the uphill. I think it's like 2,000 feet and 2 miles. So it'd be a good prep for you.
Absolutely.
Can I put in a plug then real quick? Because I know we're running a little bit over time, but I hope again it's meaningful and helpful. Please check the Camp Hard Rock schedule. These were things that were put on kind of with an idea of we can be social and get to know each other and have some fun and share some experiences before we line up to run on Friday. So all of those are on that schedule are free. They're being done with you in mind, and there's stuff for you, whether it's social things or educational things or things for your kids or whatever. But Camp Hard Rock has really become kind of one of the things that a lot of people look forward to as part of their Hard Rock experience. And then the last thing, and this reminded me as I was driving back from Durango this weekend, please, especially if you're coming from either the Denver metro area, I don't know if it's south, but please check the Colorado Department of Transportation for any road closures, road constructions. It is orange cone season. And so, and I know Blake has done this many times. It's like it gets to be 11 or 10:45 on Thursday, and somebody's just right on the cusp of, you know, they're stuck in traffic or they're stuck at a construction zone, and it's keeping them from checking in, and we hate for that to happen.
Yeah,
Last year-
there's significant construction on 50 across from Gunnison to Montrose, and then there's significant construction from Montrose to Uray. So those are both big deal, stop you for a long period of time.
Is it, Trevor, last year, that section near Gunnison was like overnight stop you. Is it that bad again this year?
I haven't looked recently. I think through the fall it's bad. Tom just threw into the chat the website for it. But definitely be aware of what's going on with that.
Yeah, definitely it can ruin your day if you're, I did have a friend who was coming down to Silverton from Boulder last year, and he got to the section near Gunnison and when it was closed, and he had to spend the night there, just sitting in his van.
Last
So-
year, coming down from the Front Range, I hit that same closure. I was moving a bit later than I anticipated, but spending the night in Gunnison wasn't an option. So with a fully loaded truck at about 1 a.m. in a rainstorm, I drove Cinnamon Pass, because why not start it off with a bad decision?
Yeah, at night. Right?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So don't do that.
Don't be like Brad.
Don't be like Brad.
All righty. Well, hey, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you to all of our super intelligent and well-prepared panelists. We thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in person, face-to-face, when we come to Silverton in just a few days.
Yep. And Chris, can I say on behalf of all of us, thank you for facilitating. Thank you for making these very enjoyable and moving them along and getting a lot of information out. So kudos
Yes.
to Chris.
Thank you,
kudos to
Chris.
Chris Twiggs for.
Well, thank you.
for
Thank you
leading
very much.
these.
The list of things in my life that I care more about than Hard Rock is very, very small and limited to things in my family. So and I think anybody that is about to experience Hard Rock for the first time, it will quickly become one of the most important things in your life as well. Being a Hard Rocker is an amazing privilege, and I'm so excited to welcome more people to that family.
Okay. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. See you in Silverton in less than 22 days. How's
All
that?
right.